Hi, this is Parvin Dabas, and you're watching the MMA India show. And we have with us our last time guest, MMA guru and Journo, Akhilesh Ganavarapu, and a very special guest, UFC star Lorenz, the Monsoon Larkin. So, welcome both of them, everybody. Thank you so much, Lorenz, for coming on the show. That's really great to have you on.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure.
And thank
I'm
you again,
pumped.
Akhilesh, for coming on. Again, it's always great to have you with us. So let's
Sure.
get
Thank you.
straight
Thank you for
into
having me
it.
again.
Let's get straight into it. UFC 203. Let's start with Jessica I versus Beth Correa. Both of them coming off losses. The Cleveland crowd, of course, backing Jessica I fully. It was.
I'll save it.
I'm not a big fan of Beth Correa. I think she's a bit overhyped. I also find her movement a little, strange sometimes. It was, there was a lot of stand up, of course. It was a stand up fight. There was a lot of exchanges. The fight did go to Korea via a split decision. Lorenz, do you want to tell us what you thought of the fight and the decision?
You know what? I kind of went with Beth winning,
Okay.
but it was. I felt like if the judges were looking at anything, was Beth was being more, or she pressured her more the whole fight. I felt like after the first round, Jessica kind of slowed down.
Okay. Okay, cool. So Lorenz goes with Beth. I personally found it pretty even, and being a Jessica I fan, maybe I'm a little impartial. So I'll keep that to myself. Going on to Jessica Andrade versus Joanne Calderwood. Now I had a lot of course, hope from Joanne Calderwood. She just came off of a great, really hard-won victory against Valerie Journo, and I was expecting a lot from her. She got a really good contract. She got her contract renewed. She did the whole thing with the cap about needing money, and because of that, she got a lot of public support, sympathy, and she got a new contract. Now, the fight didn't last very long. It was pretty one-sided. Which we saw Joanne initially using kicks, but Jessica, came in with some uppercuts and the clinch, and the minute she took her down. I think it was the second time that she took her down. She went not down and she took side control, and it was her all the way from there. Akhilesh, Lorenz, you want to come in with your comments?
Yeah, I'm a big time believer in Andrade.
Okay.
She's a beast to me, man, and she's gonna be a force to reckon with in this weight class. So, she was strong the whole first round. I was kind of anxious to see if it would have went to the second round, if she could have kept that pace up,
Yeah.
because that pace was crazy for her.
Yeah. Akhilesh?
Yeah. So the thing is, both Andrade as well as Calderwood, they are really big 115ers.
Yeah.
So, and one comes from a kickboxing background, the other from a Muay Thai background, and also Andrade has really good jiu-jitsu game. So I thought Calderwood had initially the better plan, which is to stay outside and try to drill Andrade with her kicks. Probably see if she could stay away, stay on the outside, and land up combinations. But once Andrade, she's powerful. Andrade is one of the strongest women at 115. Once she took Calderwood down, it was essentially to see if Calderwood could hang on for the rest of the round. But as I said, Andrade has really good BJJ game.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you said, she transitioned. She got into the side control. She then got in the guillotine, and she got the victory.
Yep. Now this propels Jessica, where I would say Joanne was in her last fight after she won, as as a future contender. Whereas I think it puts Calderwood back to the drawing board.
Larkin, do you want to take this one?
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
I said if this fight, the win for Jessica puts her as, you know, a potential future contender, whereas it puts Calderwood back to the drawing board.
Yeah, like I would love to see a fight between Andrade and Claudia.
Oh,
That
yeah.
would be a fun fight.
That actually would be a great matchup. So,
Yeah, so even I wanted to see that. The other fight that I wouldn't be averse to seeing is Andrade versus Rose Namajunas, because Rose just lost to KK, so
Yeah.
she lost her chance to fight for the title. So right now, you know, since I think Andrade is number 6 in the division, she has Tisha Torres above her, then I think you have the Rose Namajunas, Claudias, KKs, and the eventual champion. So I wouldn't be averse to seeing either Claudia and Andrade, or again, Rose Namajunas and Andrade.
so I think both matchups are great. So let's see, you know, what happens with both of them. Next on
Yeah.
the card was Uriah Faber versus Jimmy Rivera. Now Jimmy Rivera was coming with an 18 fight win streak, not lost since 2008. You know, amazing record. Faber was coming off of a loss to Dominic Cruz. You know, he fought him for the title and lost. Faber, of course, a legend. Rivera, the upcoming kid. So it's literally, you know, the typical fight of the upcoming kid, the new kid on the block versus the guy who may be, you know, just seeing a little downswing. And if we saw the fight, you know, the first fight, the first round, Rivera seemed, you know, he seemed strong throughout the fight. And Uriah just wasn't able to really come in and make anything of it. Rivera kept chopping away at that leg. He took it from underneath him. I think in the was that the first or second round where he got Faber down by taking out his leg from underneath him. And
Yeah, you know, I felt like it was just a big. I don't know, man. I think Jimmy was just way too much for Uriah
yeah,
tonight.
yep.
It just looked Uriah was just a couple steps behind the whole fight.
Yeah, and we did hear some boos at the end of the fight.
For Jimmy winning,
I don't know if it was for Jimmy winning. I personally feel it was just for the fight itself. I don't think the audience was entertained enough, you know, in the fight, because both fighters kept, you know, they were a little cautious, kept waiting for the counter,
Yeah.
you know, kept waiting for the other guy to do something. So I think the audience expected a little more from that fight.
yeah, and I feel like Jimmy's he still hasn't opened up, you know, like his whole game. I still feel like he's still not comfortable in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's still kind of coming into his own. So once when he like really gets comfortable in the cage, like that guy's gonna be a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Yeah, personally I thought that it was Uriah who was a little more, if I should say, antsy throughout, because he knew he needed to do something and win, whereas Rivera seemed a little more calm and just waiting for Uriah to come to counter all the time.
Yeah, you know, it just looked like Uriah was just trying to hit him with that one shot, you know,
Yeah.
and then I just think Jimmy was way too strong for him. He just seems like he can overpower, because even in the clinch, you know, Uriah was trying and he was just kind of pretty much getting shook off, you know, every time he engaged with him.
So what do we
Right,
think?
and
Sorry.
I can also, you know, if I could intervene, I saw parallels in both their game plans. You know, I saw parallels in what Jimmy Rivera did and what Lorenz did against Steel Magny.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it
Yeah.
was constant attacking of the lead leg, trying to, you know, take away the takedown game of their opponents, and then, you know, strike on the counters. So I think, Lorenz, you know, you'd be in a better position to talk about that as well. Did you see any parallels between what Rivera did and what you did in your last fight against Magny?
Yeah, you know, I seen him. He was attacking the leg, but I feel like if he would have kept setting it up, you know, I just kind of felt like he was looking for the really big leg kicks, and in the movement, he would have just kind of waited and caught Uriah's rhythm. He would have been able to land some really really strong. I feel like he could have put him away with leg kicks.
Right. And the funny thing is, I talked to Uriah a couple of days before the fight, and I asked him the same question because Rivera has, a lot of combinations. He's a high volume striker. He mixes his kicks well with his combinations. Has really good takedown defense. And I asked Uriah this question. I asked him, what are you planning to do? Because, Jimmy Rivera is someone that no other fighter wanted to take a fight with because of the same reason. And Uriah is someone who is at the top of the ladder. So it was he had nothing to gain per se from the fight, but he had everything to lose. And Faber said, what, if no one else is going to take the fight, I don't see any problem in me doing that, because he said, I don't have anything to protect. The other fighters do, which is I think is kind of the same mentality, because he was coming off a loss against the champion. The only thing is, I don't think Uriah had any answers. He did not expect Rivera to be so effective because, as Lorenz said, he tried to get him into clinches, but Rivera overpowered him. He did not let Uriah come near him. He drilled him with a lot of leg kicks, taking away his lead leg. He took away the takedown game of Uriah, because everyone thought, that would be his biggest strength, his wrestling and his grappling.
Yeah.
So what take out of the equation? I think that was a really, really effective game plan on Rivera's part.
So where do we think Uriah goes from here?
Oof. Because he was number 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was number 2.
I don't know. I don't know if he just maybe just turns into the gatekeeper,
Yeah.
of title shots.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Well. Yeah. Sorry, Akhilesh.
Yeah. A loss could, derail a lot of momentum for Uriah, to be very honest, going into the fight. That was why everyone asked him why he was even taking the fight, because, it was a lot on the line. He's not getting young. He's 37, he is at the tail end of his career. And Uriah said, what, I have nothing to lose, because I'm still there for super fights. I'm still a title contender. The funny thing is, he brought up Michael Bisping's case. You had 2 fighters who were supposed to fight each other, Rockhold and Weidman. Weidman gets injured. Then Bisping was the only guy that UFC called upon on 2 weeks' notice. He was, on a film set.
Yeah.
And UFC said, do you want to take the fight on 2 weeks' notice? He said, yes, I would. So Uriah said, I have nothing to lose. I'm still a perennial title contender. I can still go for super fights. I can still move up to 145. I can still have some good fights with the top guys over there. I can still have some good fights with the top guys in the bantamweight division. I think it was a calculated risk, a risk that everyone thought would pay off. But unfortunately, Rivera proved to be more clinical on this day.
Yeah, and a little too good. Now,
Yeah.
coming to the fight that everybody was actually waiting for, and I think we can safely call it the people's kind of title fight. If UFC 203 wasn't in Cleveland, then this would effectively have been, literally the people's title fight. But because it was in Cleveland, so Stipe, of course, being huge, Cleveland was, this was the title fight. But everybody had their eyes on Mickey Gall versus CM Punk. Now, I have to say, of course, a lot of people did. I did personally say Mickey Gall is going to win. I saw the training videos, not too impressed. Of course, I have to give full marks to CM Punk for training for 2 years and trying, because if I don't say that, all of CM Punk's fans are going to come after me like they have been on Facebook. But we have to give him full marks for trying. But was he not simply outclassed? Mickey Gall is a great fighter with great stand-up and jiu-jitsu skills. He just, I don't think, deserved to be standing in front of even a upcoming guy like Mickey Gall.
Yeah, that was just a perfect example of, what you have to have to fight to fight in MMA, I think it was just kind of like a Couture and James Toney, when that fight happened.
Yeah.
He literally was just a fish out of water once when they hit the ground,
I think there's a very different reality once that door shuts in the octagon.
Yeah, that, and and probably being helpless, completely helpless on the ground.
Yeah.
That's probably scary. That's a feeling I would never want. So I don't know. I give him kudos for doing it. I'm glad it was Mickey Gall and not like some crazy killer.
Yeah. Yeah. But should he have been so helpless on the ground? Because he is, supposed to be a professional wrestler.
Yeah, but these punches are really coming at him.
Yeah.
They're really trying to hurt him.
Now I wanted to ask you, with keeping this fight in mind, a larger question, Lorenz, about bringing in WWE guys into the UFC. We've seen Brock Lesnar, of course, being successful in the past. His last fight, of course, there was a whole, he tested positive, right? So he didn't win. There's a whole controversy about whether he should have been allowed to fight or not. We heard Mark Hunt saying he should get most of Brock Lesnar's purse. Now, what is your take on bringing in guys from the WWE? It does bring a lot of eyeballs. We know even on our site, the MMA India show, we've got a lot of CM Punk fans who have trolled us, continuously for saying Gall is going to win. But what is your take on bringing in WWE guys? Is it worth the attention you get from or the fans, the WWE fans? Is it worth bringing them in at the cost of what we just saw, which is a real good fighter with actual skills, almost making a mockery of the other guy?
Yeah, it just okay. So with the Lesnar thing, at least he had like a collegiate background and everything.
Yeah, he had a back. Yeah.
So that, and that guy was tossed to the wolves. His first fight was against Frank Mir.
Yeah.
His second fight was Heath Herring. His third fight was Randy Couture. And then I think the fight after that was Shane Carwin. So he didn't have an easy streak. So
now can I just say is there a question mark because drug testing wasn't as strong as it is now when he made his initial run? Is there a question mark, or should we say he won fair and square?
Well, no, I mean, who knows? This whole USADA thing has changed up the MMA game, a lot, and especially for the fans that really watch MMA, a lot of their fighters that, it was probably their favorite has changed over time. A lot of fighters don't look the same than what they looked like before USADA. So,
there's quite a few of them. I mean, we don't want to take any names, but there's quite a few of them, right?
Oh, yeah. For sure. So, who's to say? But as far as technical, and skill, Brock did, and he kind of proved that to me when he fought Shane Carwin, and I thought he was going to get knocked out, and he finished him with a arm triangle, so it just shows that, he was learning and he has his wrestling, so, but it's just, my thing is if they don't have no experience in MMA, it's kind of scary, because like, I'm not trying to down talk Mickey Gall or anything like that. He's a good kid and he won, and he he's a brown belt. But as far as like when I look at fighters that are killers, you know what I mean, he doesn't come up. So I'm saying if one of these guys that have no MMA experience get matched up with, in my head, a killer, I would be scared. I would watch it for sure.
Yeah.
But I would be scared. But I would be really, really worried, for his
for the outcome.
his health.
Yeah.
Larkin, I wanted to ask you one thing. Since you fought in the welterweight division, how do you see? Because these two guys, it was CM Punk's first fight and it was Mickey Gall's second fight in the UFC, and both of them were on the pay-per-view, and they did not open the pay-per-view. They were, right smack in the middle. So, do you think it was because it was Cleveland, which is traditionally a wrestling city? Did you think that was the reason why Punk was, stacked in the middle of the card? Or, do you think he should have started with a fight night or probably UFC on Fox rather than a pay-per-view?
Well, it's the name, and the big name, and the thing is, you want a big name, you want a couple big names on a pay-per-view, so it makes sense. I don't think it would make too much sense to have him on a fight night, not CM Punk, just because you want the buys, on pay-per-view. So I think it made sense, but I mean, it was just like CM Punk was fighting after Uriah, I'm just like, oh man, that sucks.
And what do you guys think of? Sorry, what are you saying, Akhilesh?
Yeah. So Lorenz, since you talked about your displeasure at being the main event of Fight Pass before, do you think these are the fights that kind of push the really deserving candidates down the ladder? Maybe from the pay-per-views to the Fight Pass prelims to the Fight Night prelims. Do you think fights like these? Yeah. So do you think the fights like these kind of cause that additional trouble, I should say, for the fighters?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about numbers and, what people move needles, when it comes to TV and pay-per-view and all that. So, yeah, it's I don't know, it's just kind of one of those freak show fights, that happen once every blue moon, So I guess the last freak show fight was probably James Toney and Rank Couture. So and I don't even know how long ago that was. So hopefully we got a good amount of years left until we got to see something like that.
Now I wanted to ask both of you. After the fight, Mickey Gall called out for Sage Northcutt. So what do you guys have to say about that matchup?
I would like to see it.
Yeah.
This is not a bad matchup.
Like two pretty boys, two young up-and-coming pretty boys fighting each other.
Yeah, it'll probably end up looking the same way. One's going to be good on the feet and the other one's going to be good on the ground. Yeah. If Sage Northcutt gets taken down, then it'll probably be a fish out of water too.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've seen that before when Sage got submitted because he had no answer to the submission game. But talking about this fight itself, I think CM Punk had the wrong game plan. I don't know what Duke Rufus and his teammates drew out for him, because going into the cage, Duke Rufus was telling Punk to counter those overhand rights and get Mickey Gall in clinches. That never happened.
Yeah.
That never happened. Punk went for an overhand right, and Mickey was the one who took him down and submitted him. And that was way too easy for Mickey. You have a white belt and you have a brown belt.
Yeah.
That was a drastic mismatch.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was just me, but it looked like he was going for a flying knee, like he was running up or just kind of, approaching him real fast. And it kind of looked like he barely lifted up off the ground just a little bit. And then Mickey grabbed his legs, and then they fell. But it looked like he was maybe going for a flying knee. I don't know.
Now, when we saw most of CM Punk's training videos, he seemed to be, like Akhilesh, you were saying, he seemed to be training for the clinch and wrestling and taking him down. We were wondering whether that was kind of not to open his hand and show what he actually had in mind for Mickey Gall. But once the fight started, it didn't seem like he really had any plan.
Yeah, it really looked like what was the fight? It just looked like he was really wound up, and then when he finally got behind locked in the cage, it was kind of like he just kind of went blank.
Yeah.
I'm trying to the girl. Oh, Kat Zingano and Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
She just kind of ran across the cage and got judo tossed, and then she was just kind of like, "What? Why did I do that?"
Yeah. Now, Lorenz, what's your take on fighters not shaking hands with other fighters?
I don't know. I guess everybody has a preference. Just like some fighters, touch gloves, and then some fighters, don't touch gloves. So I don't know. It's all I don't know. I've never been for like talking mess or doing a mean stare down right before the day you're gonna fight,
Yeah.
like as if somebody's stare is gonna make you hide away from everybody and not fight the next day. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, great. So,
I
yeah, sorry.
I think whatever CM Punk does, because he's a professional wrestler, he's used to selling the fights, he's used to selling the pay-per-views and matches.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the pay-per-view kings, like for example you talk about the Conor McGregor's or Ronda Rousey's, they kind of try to hide the fight, because if you see what happened with Ronda before the Holly Holm fight during the weigh-ins, you did not see that coming, because throughout the fight week, Ronda was praising Holly, Holly was praising Ronda.
Yeah.
So before the fight, I think Ronda maybe tried to hide the fight. Or, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense because it creates a lot of appeal. Because you even saw that with Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz before the fight. After the fight, they shook hands, they hugged. They said everything is in the past. So I think, and it became the highest grossing pay-per-view in history.
I,
So
yeah.
I think it makes sense.
I personally don't
Yeah.
I agree with it. The only reason being I feel there's a difference between trash talking, but when it comes down to it, it's a sport, and shaking hands is the most basic thing when two guys stand in front of each other. You kind of respect that you're fighting each other. So for me, that's like a basic etiquette, or if you want to call it. Of course, Punk said, "I'm not here to make friends," but it's not about making friends. It's just about respecting the sport and each other as fighters as well. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's always good to sell a fight, and that's been going on in fighting. It's just now, maybe Conor McGregor, is probably one of the guys that really, really took, the influences from boxing, and brought it over to MMA.
Yeah.
Because it's been, trash talk has been around, and there's been, many of Conors,
No, but
it's
I
just
love
not
trash talking. That's what I'm saying. I have no problem with the trash talking. That hypes the fight. That creates, a certain atmosphere. But I'm
Yeah,
not-
that's why I say.
Yeah.
That's why I say, it's just when guys are still sour, after the fight, then it's kind of like, come on,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of times, well, it hasn't happened to me yet, but when guys don't like each other and then they fight, it's kind of like the ultimate like release,
Yeah.
whatever they had going. So as long as there's good sport, after the fight,
Yeah.
then
Well, talking about being sour after the fight, coming to Travis Brown and Fabricio Werdum, we saw that whole, I don't know what you want to call it, fight after the fight had ended. I think Travis Brown's coach went towards Werdum, and Werdum tried to kick him, to ward him off or something, and then they had to empty everyone except the fighters from the cage. So
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
It happens so fast.
Yeah. So I think that's what we're talking about when we talk about being sour after the fight. You need to just leave it behind in the fight. Whatever has happened after the fight, you shake hands. Even like McGregor and Nate Diaz did after their fight, and the fight's over.
Oh yeah, especially them, Connor and Diaz, because they're pretty much at the point where after the fight they just probably looked at each other like, man, we made so much money today.
Yeah. So coming to the actual fight, in the very first round, Brown, I think I'm not sure what happened, but it seemed like he had dislocated his finger. And of course, like we saw, a fighter he's not the one who can ask for a timeout. The referee's the one who's supposed to do that. The referee did seem to signal a timeout, and at the same time, Werdum came in to get in a couple of hits, because he was like, you know what, fuck it. The referee didn't stop the fight, so why should I stop?
Yeah, and Verdum did exactly what you're supposed to do. No fighter. I hate when I see fighters call their own timeout. I'm like,
Yeah.
if that's the point, like I would be calling timeout a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, he's trying to punch me, timeout. So I hate when fighters do that. But yeah, and when the ref did his timeout, he wasn't even facing Verdum.
Yeah.
He was looking at he was looking at Travis and then called a timeout. You know, I'm like, no, you got to throw your hands up in the air, you know, stop the fight, and be like, you know, go to your corner, and then that type of stuff. So I don't know.
So I think some of that was the referee's fault for not, you know, being quick about it and controlling both fighters.
Yeah, you know, so some refs are on it. You know, some refs are like, if guys act like they got poked in the eye, you know, it's really a knuckle. You know, I've seen some refs that are like, nope, keep fighting. You know, you didn't get poked.
Yeah.
And then some refs, you know, they're just like, they start talking to him, like having a conversation, like, whoa, why did you call timeout? Da, da, da. And they stop the fight. That's not like.
Now, if we look at the fight, Verdum tried a lot of, you know, different kind of stuff. He started the fight with a flying side kick to the head, which almost kind of knocked Brown out. He tried a lot of, I think there were wheelbarrow kicks, and I think like one or two of them connected. So he seemed really out to prove a point after his loss to Stipe.
Yeah, he was looking for a super highlight reel.
Yeah.
Nah.
It seemed like he was looking for something really fancy. You know, like you said, a really fancy KO to get him that championship fight again.
Yeah, and Brown's like what 6'4",
5.
6'5", 6'4", 6'5"? Yeah.
6,
Yeah.
6, 7.
Oh yeah. Okay. Maybe taller. Yeah. Okay. So if yeah. So you know, during the whole fight, after that finger incident, Travis Brown didn't seem his usual self. You know, throughout the whole fight, you want to say something about that? About the fight itself? Akhilesh?
Okay,
Or Lorenz? Yeah, Weber?
I can hear you.
Do you want to say something about the actual fight? Travis Brown didn't seem like the fighter he usually is in these fights.
No, you know, I don't know. It's just looking like Travis was looking for the one big punch.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't really looked like he was trying to set up anything. You know, it's just like everybody's looking for the big one punch.
Do you think he was just trying to survive the match, the fight after that? And do you also think Fabricio should have done a better job of finishing him once he was like injured like that?
Yeah, you know, and it just looked like if Fabricio would have just stuck to stuff that he usually does and it's real technical, and I think he could have put away Brown, but I felt like he'll hurt him and he'll try to do something crazy to finish it. It just wasn't landing.
Akhilesh?
Yeah. So it was a very weird fight. I thought it was something that no one expected, because you know, Verdum, he had the opportunity in the very first round to finish the fight. You know, once he hurt Brown a lot of times in the first round with Verdum. You know, he has crisp boxing, then he has really good wrestling, you know, grappling and jiu-jitsu game. So when he got Brown to the ground, and you know, in the dying seconds of the first round, he almost finished him, but he couldn't get his grip. But in the second and third, I don't know. I mean, Daniel Cormier said during the fight that Verdum might be injured. So, you know, many people thought that would be the case, because you know it looked like Verdum was injured. He was not, you know, pushing forward. He was not aggressive enough. He was not what he was in the first round, and he was going for those flashy, highlight reel finishes, the wheelbarrows, you know, your flashy moves that one punch knockouts. But yeah, I mean, it was very weird. Even the decision, you know, I thought Travis Brown did well. I think it would have been, so first round I gave it a 10-8 because it was all Verdum. Brown did not get any of his offense in. Second, I thought Brown did just enough. You know, it was a very close round, I thought, because Brown was countering while Verdum was looking for his combinations, to get his combinations through. He went for several takedowns, but Brown was again, you know, very good in defending them. So I thought second round was close. I thought it could either go for Verdum or Brown. And the third round, you know, it was, as I said, very weird. I mean, there was a point when I thought this could end in a majority draw, because none of these fighters are, you know, aggressive. They're not doing enough to engage. So at the end of the day, you know, Verdum won it quite comfortably, unanimous decision. But Yeah, it was a very weird fight, and even the fans, they kind of expressed their opinions by booing both the fighters. They
Yeah,
were not engaging,
yeah,
and even with the Edmund stuff after the fight, I thought it was because Bloom got in his punch when Travis was injured, and a fighter cannot call for a timeout.
yeah.
It's not what a fighter is supposed to do. If he's injured, then he forfeits. So Edmund, I thought came in. He had some harsh words for Verdum, and Verdum did not, take those words too kindly. He kicked him,
Yeah.
and the whole melee ensued. It was very weird fight.
Yeah, it was. Even in the third round, we saw Verdum trying to play very safe. He wasn't really engaging. He knew probably he had the fight at that point, and that's when we heard the crowd booing. I think in the third round as well, and even after the fight. What do you think of Travis Fabricio actually taunted the crowd? He made that crying faces at the crowd, and of course that's never going to get the crowd on your side, especially since you just lost to Stipe before this, and the crowd is it's like he said, it's Stipe's home.
Yeah, I don't know. It's never really good to address the crowd when they're going crazy.
Yeah, especially like
you
50,
don't ever
60,000 people. you know.
Yeah, I think the only worst thing to do is like when his name Alec Quinta
Yeah,
told the crowd
yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah,
so it's pretty much better just to ignore it.
yeah.
And just accept your win and go to the back.
I think Alistair handled the crowd really well. If we saw even during his open training sessions, he was getting heckled a lot, but he dealt with it in a really gracious way, I think.
Yeah, it's no matter what, you're never gonna win. So it's
Yeah.
like if you're never gonna do a crying face and then the crowd's gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, we're wrong.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
it provokes them more.
More, yeah.
So it's just like
Yeah.
just accept the win, and applaud the other dude and go to the back.
Yeah,
That's what I would do.
and move on. We agree. So coming to the main, the main event, Stipe versus Alistair. I think this fight, as we've seen in heavyweight, it could be anybody's fight sometimes, and that's really, I don't know if you want to call it unfortunate or unfair, because life is unfair, but it doesn't matter sometimes how much you've trained. Sometimes that it's about being in the moment. That wrong move, you move the wrong way, one wrong mistake, and that one punch knocks the lights out of you, and that's it. That's what we've seen a lot of times in the heavyweight division, and that's almost what we saw in this fight. I think it was an amazing fight. We saw Alistair knock Stipe down, try and get him into a choke. He survived, got up. There were a lot of exchanges, and then we of course saw the end. What do you have to say about the actual fight before we get to the end?
You know what? I thought the fight was good.
Yeah.
But I feel like he shouldn't have tried to go for the guillotine. I feel like he should have just ended it with a couple of punches. I think that was a dumb move on his part. And, it paid the consequence. And I don't understand why you say he tapped. And it's 2016. We all they have the best cameras in the
Well, and that's
octagon.
what Joe Rogan did in front of everybody, right? He replayed the thing, and he said, "You tell me, where did he tap?" And there was no place. I think he must have, like he said, I think we got to give the benefit of the doubt to Alistair as well.
Yeah.
That I don't think he was being a sore loser, as in he actually probably thought, he'd just been knocked out. He actually maybe thought that when his hands were grazing him or he was trying to hold him, he may have thought in that moment that he was trying to tap. But at the end of the day, the referee was standing right above them. He was in a good position to see if he had actually tapped, and he didn't, as we saw.
Oh yeah, well, Overeem probably created a meme that tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
He's gonna be on YouTube for a long time.
Yeah. So again, we saw. What do you think of Alistair's game plan? He was circling a lot. Not changing position a lot. What do you have to say about Alistair's game plan and such?
It's just back to the one punch. It's like, they're heavyweights, and that's kind of just how it goes. But it just looked like Overeem was just looking for the one big punch or kick. He'll run away. He'll load up with a big body kick. He'll run away, look for the big two. Or his big left. I don't know. I just hate, and Stipe just stayed in space and he set up his punches a little better than Overeem.
And if we see the ending, he didn't do this. He didn't commit the same mistake that Alistair did by trying to go for the choke. He just, kept raining punches down on him, moved his hands a bit, and kept, trying to finish him, which he did.
Oh yeah.
Akhilesh, you want to say anything about the finish?
Yeah, I think Overeem actually had, because this is what Overeem does. When you see his previous fights, even against JDS or anyone else, what he does is he scouts his opponents in the first round, then in the second and going into the deep third. That's when Overeem comes into his own, because he has lost a lot of weight. He has good cardio. He can go all rounds. So even in his previous fights, he did that. He circled because he tries to see what the opponent does, because he even in his previous fights he threw a lot of feints to see how his opponents would react. He threw a lot of fake jabs just to see how their opponents would react to it, and he got their timings as well. So that's how he used to counter them, and that's how he won his previous fights. But this time around, Overeem was not even putting up his guard. He did not even put up his elbows like he usually does, like all the most of the kickboxers do, because that kind of pushes the opponents away. It kind of discourages them from throwing kicks. This time around, I did not think he did any of that. He was just directly going. He was charging for that one big knockout shot. But Miocic has very crisp boxing, very crisp. He lands his jabs, precisely. He's very economical. He's not someone that throws jabs and completely, gasses himself out or anything like that. So he is very precise and economical with what he does. And Overeem connected with, as you said, an overhand left, and should have probably finished Miocic, but Miocic survived. Then it was I don't think Overeem had performed to what his game plan was. He did what he usually does in his fights for the first couple of minutes, circling his opponent, trying to maintain distance, controlling the range, seeing getting the timing right and everything like that. But he did not have a very good defensive guard. But once Miocic took him to the ground, connected with that big jab, took him to the ground and got in his ground and pound. That's what I expected, to be very honest. I thought Miocic would win it via TKO, via knockout, and he did just that. But I thought Overeem could have been much better defensively. His defensive game could have been much better. But it probably just wasn't his night.
Yeah,
and I think this is also.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think this is also where a few fighters thrive. Coming into the fight with all the fans booing you. If you have a guy like Ben Rothwell, he thrives on this hatred.
Yeah.
He performs much better. He actually expects the fans to hate him even more. So there are guys who thrive on this kind of atmosphere, but I don't think Overeem was one of those guys on this night.
And when Stipe got hit, he had his hands down. He had his hands down, now and then, which wasn't a great move on his part, which is what resulted in him getting hit, I guess, in the first place. Right.
So, as I said, it was very difficult to understand what Overeem was even thinking. But at the end of the day, Miocic had his home support, home fans. The entire crowd was chanting for Stipe. Many thought this would be the crowning moment for Overeem because of his illustrious career. He has about 55, 57 professional fights. He has about 87 in total. While Miocic has about 17 professional fights, I think. So, and Overeem has this incredible pedigree: Strikeforce champion, K1 Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So coming into the fight, many people expected this to be the crowning moment for Overeem, but that didn't happen.
Yeah. So that was the main card and UFC 203. Lorenz, before we say goodbye, we have a couple of questions for you. Personally, you are now a free agent.
Yep.
And we reread that you said you're negotiating through text.
Through text?
Through text messaging, SMS. That's how you're negotiating.
No.
Oh.
I wish I could. I wish I could tell everybody.
Okay.
Hey, send all your numbers to this number, and then I will text back yes or no.
Okay. So that was a wrong piece of information we have. But do you want to say something? Do you want to tell us a little about how free agency is going? And
Yeah,
of course, yeah. I know you can't say whether you would prefer to stay in the UFC or if given a better opportunity move to Bellator. But how is free agency going? I mean, it's a risk. I don't know if you can call it a risk, but it is something that fighters are going for right now to get their real worth. What do you have to say about it? I mean, how's it treating you right now?
You know, it's great, man. You know, long chairs by the pool, pina coladas, margaritas. You know, it's great. No, you know, I'm anxious to see how everything goes. You know, we knew it was going to be a risk. You know, going into this fight and taking the fight on short notice, and pretty much you're just risking it all. You know, and you know, sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. You know, and this time it paid off. So, you know, I'm just anxious. I'm pretty excited to see how everything goes with this free agency thing.
Okay, great. Now, just our last question for you: how the change in ownership in the UFC, has it changed a lot for the fighters? Is it affecting you guys? You know, what's your take on that?
You know, truth be told, nothing has changed. You know, I don't think we would probably even see a change until like a year or two. You know, I just, it's still getting ran the same way. You wouldn't even know anything changed if, you know, they didn't come out and say they sold, you know. So I'm not too sure. I'm anxious to see what they're planning on taking the company and what they plan on doing. That's going to be a little different, you know. So.
Okay, great. Well, having said that, I want to thank both of you for being on our show. Thank you so much. And Lorenz, thank you so much for being on the show. And we hope to have you back soon. And we hope you get a real fat contract real soon. Our best wishes are with you. Our best wishes are with you to get a really big fat contract. We think you deserve it.
Yeah, that's the plan.
We'll put that out into the universe for you.
Pina coladas.
Yeah, we'll put that out into the universe for you. A really big fat contract. So thank you so much.
Oh yes, I can buy everybody pina coladas.
Yeah. Okay. Great. We will remember that, and thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, Akhilesh, again, and thank you and namaskar, and thank you to all the fans who are tuning in. That was UFC 203, and thank you so much to Akhilesh and Lorenz Larkin for being on the show. Thank you. Till next time.